came out of C-15
Okay.
in May of 12, so a year or more ago now. And, went out to Chicago with the snow.
All right, it's 6:30 on Monday evening. We've got a work session scheduled. One item under consideration, one item for discussion. Discuss a proposal by Zimmer Companies Incorporated for tax abatement and other incentives to support the development of a distribution facility at 183rd and Waverly, adjacent to the Logistics Park, Kansas City. Mike Hall, good evening.
Thank you. There's a lot of material here for a half hour, so some of these slides I will go through somewhat quickly so we can get to what I think you'll find most important in the presentation. So this is an update following the June 10th presentation we made at that work session. The purpose of this session, as we understand it, is to improve the understanding of the annexation process and the development process as it relates to this project, to determine if the city should commit time and resources to proceed, and to identify issues and additional information you will need to make additional decisions or other decisions. So what follows is a recap of the developer's proposal, an overview of the annexation rezoning process, just an overview, a summary of Gardner's tax abatement policy, and the cost revenue analysis. As you recall, the Zimmer Group is proposing a 1.1 million square foot distribution warehouse development at 183rd and Waverly. This is the site of that project. It is outlined in red in the middle of the screen. It's bordered on the north by 183rd and on the west by Waverly Road. It's separated between Gardner's west edge, city limits, by a similar sized parcel of approximately 80 acres. And it is contiguous with the city limits of Edgerton on the north and the west. Zimmer has proposed that annexation be subject, they're proposing the annexation of the city of Gardner, but subject to terms and conditions. The terms are 75% tax abatement, the city to construct Waverly Road within the next 2 years, truck access on Center Street and other roads in the interim, reduction in excise tax and other city fees, the city to construct sewer and water extension, a waiver of the water and sewer system connection fees, and ultimately industrial zoning of the property. As they've purported in their proposal, the benefits of this project to the city of Gardner: it's a 1.1 million square foot project, has an estimated appraised value of $40 to $52 million. It is estimated, according to them, to generate 400 to 500 jobs with a total annual payroll of 12 to 15 million. And they're proposing a number for the total taxes paid to all taxing authorities over the next 20 years under a 10-year 75% tax abatement, estimated to be 18 to 24 million. The annexation and rezoning process is an important consideration because it's fairly complicated. The land does not adjoin the city, and so the city does not have entire control over the decision that's made. The way it works is the property owner provides the city written consent to annexation. The city considers and possibly passes a resolution requesting approval by the Board of County Commissioners. It then goes to the Johnson County Board of Commissioners. They consider the city's resolution of annexation, and if they approve, they make findings in support of annexation pursuant to the Kansas statute. After that, the City Council would consider an ordinance approving annexation. If approved, the land is zoned in a manner most similar to the current county zoning. Note that steps 2 and 3 in these steps are not necessary in the event the land to be annexed joins the city limits. Then, in order to get the zoning that's needed to support this type of land use, the property owner or developer would submit an application for rezone. The Planning Commission holds a public hearing on the rezone application with the opportunity for stakeholders to comment, as always happens with the rezone application, and they make a recommendation to the City Council. City Council will then consider a rezone application. In order to approve, the City Council will need to adopt an ordinance approving the rezone. So just tax abatement with annexation in general, a contractual arrangement between the city and developer is likely required as a step before the developer would provide written consent for the annexation, because they are requesting annexation under certain terms and conditions. By statute, in order to do tax abatement, a resolution of intent is required. The statutory process also includes a cost-benefit analysis, which is conducted by the state of Kansas. And this is a more robust analysis that considers the economic impact, the full economic impact of the project, such as number of jobs and the economic multiplier of the project. It's important to make the distinction that the analysis we're presenting with you tonight is pretty preliminary. It is deliberately called a cost-revenue analysis because it does not entail the full scope of a cost-benefit analysis as would be done by the state. Also required as part of the tax abatement process, the City Council would need to hold a public hearing. There is a consideration of a payment in lieu of taxes agreement, also known as a pilot agreement. And ultimately, tax abatement is subject to approval by the state of Kansas. The Gardner tax abatement policy is to provide for up to 50% tax abatement if the project meets criteria. That's what applies to this use and where it's located. It also provides for a term of 10 years for projects that meet or exceed a certain capital investment, that is $8 million or more. This certainly meets that with an estimated appraised value of $40 million or more. The cost revenue analysis, on the revenue side, property taxes, excise taxes. Again, the property tax is what is collected over a 10-year period, this being a 10-year analysis. Public improvement inspection fees, parks fees, water system connection and development fees, building permit and review fees, and utility fees. The utility fees are collected over a 10-year period. On the cost side, costs are paving Waverly Road, constructing sanitary sewer, constructing the water line, and extending electric power to the site. The scope and assumptions of this analysis, keep in mind it's a 10-year analysis. You can certainly do a 20-year analysis, which would obviously yield the property tax revenue that is generated beyond the 10-year limit of the tax abatement. But this is a 10-year analysis. Other assumptions, the estimated project appraised values, the estimated cost of infrastructure. This is done in constant dollars. There's no complex formulas involving appreciation. At the same time, there's no complex formula of discounting future cash flows. It's done in constant dollars. It does not include additional costs of city services. There might be some of that, but this does not include them. We've done this in 6 scenarios. It's kind of what you'd call a 2-by-3 analysis. Analysis A1 through A3. It's based on the high value estimate that they included in their proposal. They identified in their proposal. That's assuming that you have an appraised value of $52 million and that it happens initially when the project is developed. In other words, there's one or more warehouses developed at a point in time and the full property taxes are collected on that appraised value over the 10-year period. Within those parameters, there's a scenario of no tax abatement, a scenario of exactly what the developer requested, which is 75% tax abatement, and the other terms they proposed. And third, it's based on Gardner's policy, tax abatement policy, which is 50% tax abatement. In addition to that, this scenario includes city paying for half the cost of Waverly Road for heavy haul capacity. The next set of scenarios is based on a low value estimate. Low value being the appraised value is $40 million, but only half of that would come on initially when the project is developed, and this being a phased project under this scenario, the second half of that would come on at year 6. That's the basis for this set of analyses. Again, to compare apples to apples, under B1, it's no tax abatement. B2, 75% tax abatement in other terms as proposed by the developer. The third, B3, is 50% tax abatement per city policy, and city paying 1/2 the cost of Waverly Road for heavy haul. So there are 6 slides like this, and I will kind of go down the list on this one, and then we could probably summarize on the ones that follow to give you some time for discussion.